So thank you everyone for joining us. We're going to give just a moment or two for other people to connect and get in. But in the meanwhile, please feel free to use the chat function, drop your questions in there. We have a ton of things we're going to talk about, but I will try to do my best to make sure we can slot in your questions so you have a chance to really learn and be inspired today. So as I introduce these panelists, I have to first just say that I'm getting to spend the next 45 minutes or so with two just amazing women and founders who inspire me and I love working with all the time. So I know this is going to be an amazing conversation, really delving into the why behind your mission-driven path to being a founder. And then really getting into a lot of the how, everything from how you're helping to make a mark for women in sports, everything from finding that problem that you're passionate about solving to how do you assemble your advisory board to help guide your success. So Marilou, I'm going to start with you, and I'm going to be your brag buddy here for a moment and just talk about some cool things about you. And we'll delve into this a little bit more, but you are the founder and CEO of Women in SportsTech, also known as WIST. We began that in 2017. SportsTech, we are proud partners with WIST. I'm going to let you talk about the mission, but I'm going to rave about just how you have been as real partners in our shared mission of changing the ratio. You were a former Chief Marketing Officer and Chief Revenue Officer for venture-backed Mustard, CEO of Edify, which is now called Coach Now, and president of Stats Sports in North America. Your first startup, though, Vivo Girls in Sports, you started in 2009. It was definitely way before its time. Really launching and inspiring ESPNW and other media businesses that you now see that are really dedicated to supporting women and girls in sports. Also a graduate of University of North Carolina business degree, where you ran cross country, much like I did at Baylor University. Lifetime skills, and where your daughters Kelly and Darcy were both captains on the famed 22-time national champion Tar Heel women's soccer team. Amazing, right?
Thank you. Yes, humble mom brag on that one. Pretty awesome. And I was their coach for 10 years when they were young. So we taught them how to have fun, and if you teach them how to have fun playing, they just might keep playing.
They just might keep playing. Yeah, we're trying to keep that focus with our daughter as well, who loves soccer and squash. And I would love nothing more than for her to get all of those life skills that you get, teamwork, leadership, knowing how to pick up after, when the game doesn't go right, and all those learnings. So Ainsley, proud to introduce you. Ainsley McCallister is the CEO and founder of Viewer Sports, a passionate entrepreneur who was in our last cohort of the Comcast NBCU SportsTech program. So I get to know you very well. Also a leader at the Michigan entrepreneurial and athletic community in general. What I did not know until now is that you were the varsity field walk-on turned multi-year captain and All-American. So huge accomplishment and achievement there. Just a reminder, just get in the field, get in the arena. Also, that same mission of, sports really prepares you for life is a lot of the underpinnings of Euro Sports, which I'm excited for you to share more about. But then you also competed in the Team USA and the World Junior Cup before going on to your post-collegiate professional career, competing for 7 different teams across Europe, Australia, and South America. And you currently live in Traverse City, Michigan with your husband, who I got to meet. And also you have the coolest office set up in the summer on the water in Harbor, Michigan, according to our daughter. And you also love mountain biking, skiing, trail running, endless. So welcome to both of you.
Thanks for the kind intros. Yeah.
What a great honor to be here with you both. This is so much fun.
So fun. So Marilou, I'm gonna start with you and give us a little bit of that walk through the journey, the why behind your founding WIST, and really that mission-driven purpose that keeps you going each day.
For sure. Well, thank you. And also thank you to Comcast. You guys really, a couple of years ago, we had been an all-volunteer organization until a really epic meeting with Comcast where they actually said, we want to support you, but someone's going to actually have to work there. Jenna's my witness. So now we have a team of 5 people, and it's so great. So yes, and it goes back, I've been in sports tech for the last 12 years or so, really before sports tech was a thing. I think before we even knew to call it that. But I was doing some really amazing things. So after Vivo Girls Sports, which back in 2009, 2010 was really unaware of how venture funding was really at that time less than 1% going to female founders. I'm glad I didn't know that, but we still made a mark on the business, and it really taught me kind of quite a bit about being a strong founder, putting together a strong founding team, how to find investment, how to organize your business model. And from there, I went to several others really cool roles over the next like 8 to 10 years, where I was working with coaches on college campuses, getting them off paper-based processes for scouting and recruiting. Coaches were still going to events and writing on paper. So we brought them a mobile app to transform that and give them efficiency in a very important process for them. Went to Edufy, where we helped coaches help their players and athletes retain what they were learning better along the way with a private mobile training space. From there, introduced and launched the consumer product for stat sports to elite youth soccer players in this country. So along the way, I would meet these amazing young women who were like, wait, how do we find out about these jobs? And how do I even understand about this industry? And wow, such cool things. And I was working with mostly men and mostly good dudes who wanted to find a way to hire more women, especially women who had been athletes and are sports fans. So it was in 2017 that I envisioned an ecosystem that we've created with WIS that gives, our mission is to empower women and employers toward growth opportunities that they wouldn't have otherwise. And we do that through delivering very specific programs, which I can tell you more about as we go. But the WIS Fellowship Program is our flagship initiative, but we've got 4 programs now that absolutely help employers change the ratio, help employers improve their culture. And we also love our partnerships with accelerator groups in this industry. And that's how we got connected with you, Jenna. It's how I got to meet Jenna. And we love mentoring founders in this ecosystem because many of us, me and our board members, have walked a mile in your shoes. And so it does give us a unique perspective in terms of, we don't bring all the superpowers to the table, but we each bring our own superpowers to you, Ainsley, to support you. And that's what we aim to do here with WIS. So it's really been wonderful to see how well received everything that we're doing is. We're up to 30 corporate partners and growing like crazy. So we've hit a nerve. It's awesome.
Absolutely. And I love that it's from the classroom to the boardroom.
From the classroom to the boardroom.
And everything from helping somebody see, you often say you have to see it to be it. And that's a perfect segue for you, Ainsley, to really talk about the mission behind your sports. But I think more importantly for you personally, your journey as an athlete that has really formed the underpinnings of your sports.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just so fun to be on this panel first with you two women, just like both have been taking me under your wings and just been great mentors that I've learned so much from. So thank you. But yeah, my journey, I did not really dream of being an entrepreneur. So it's really amazing that I've seen a need, right, through my experience. So I was like you said, a walk-on field hockey player at Michigan. I was really passionate about the sport. I also was studying pre-med. And after I graduated, I really realized I was so passionate about my sport, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do next. And I feel like that what we've been hearing from thousands of athletes is that's the exact same situation that they find themselves in, and these transition points is they really have no idea how to navigate that transition. And so I ended up having a connection, playing overseas, really navigated an international world of professional field hockey, which who knew that was a thing, right? But through just some mentors who took me under their wing as well and opened up doors. And so in that experience, I learned so much that I could kind of glean insight to other athletes. And I kept getting reached out to from teammates being like, how do I do that? Can you share your experience? And we just really, to me, I realized the power of the athlete community and what athletes experience to helping really lend insight into what's possible and what career paths can really be what they can dream to do. So what Euro does is we're working with these awesome companies now and athlete advocates within companies, and they're sharing what is it like to be, work at Strava or work at these different companies and showcasing their what's possible. So it's really amazing to help athletes dream and really showcase what they are passionate about and make that happen. So
I love that. There's such a theme here around mentors and advisors. So let's get into a little bit of the how on that, because the passion, the idea, the problem that you want to solve, there are a million different ways to approach solving a problem, and validating the need that's there often comes with surrounding yourself with advisors. So in your long career, Marilou, how have you assembled your own personal core set of advisors, and what advice would you give to those listening in on how they can navigate creating that same board of advisors for themselves?
Well, it's a great question. And we've talked about this, that it's important to identify a mentor and advisor who will support you in your own dreams. Like, their job is not to redirect you necessarily. Their job is to help engage with you, hear your dreams, and hopefully bring a talent, a superpower, a network to you to bear to help you with those dreams. I wouldn't be living in San Francisco if not for my first mentor at Turner Broadcasting. I had no idea I wanted to live out here, and they had to talk me into it. And in this case, they did redirect me, and I took their advice because I had nothing to lose. So there's that too. But I would say when I did doing startups, you want to find people who have credible expertise in your space, who can open doors for you. I think that's a very big one. And also, support you deeply in ways that you're not your own superpower. So no one knows everything about everything. And I think that it's really naive to think that any CEO of a company does know everything they need to know. So I have found it very helpful to surround myself with people way smarter than me at things that I feel like are not my own strength. And it's pretty validating and rewarding when you have advisors jump on the train that you're, driving down the tracks, because then it gives you the credibility that you need to go forward. When I first founded Whist, it's a kind of a fun story for anyone looking to be a founder, is bought the URL, got a website up, wrote a press release, went to CES, and just started literally meeting people there who all of a sudden we had a check from IBM Sports, from Elizabeth O'Brien. We had a credible board put together just because you have the courage to go for it. And Ainsley, I know you would probably speak to this. I think courage comes before confidence in a lot of ways. So having the advisor who can help you, just give you the courage, you're going to get the confidence by just going. You can't stop and overanalyze what you're driven to do, because you're going to do it.
So let's talk about that, Ainsley, that confidence, because I got to say that takes huge confidence just to decide I'm not done playing. I'm going to figure this out in Europe, where you have visas, language barriers, housing, like so many things to solve. So you take that, you find your path, and all these other athletes are coming to you asking for your advice. So talk a little bit about that courage piece and the courage in finding advisors that can help guide you, and then knowing in your gut, like, when do you need to look back at yourself and just be confident that the direction you're heading is the right direction?
Yeah, I think something that I wouldn't be able to follow that path without my support network, but I just have always stayed very authentically true to myself and pursuing, what drives me and what gets me excited to wake up in the morning, and I think that's when I was looking at, okay, do I go do this oversee this adventure or not, it was kind of a no-brainer to take the risk. And taking a risk, that is definitely a privilege to do, you know, and it's then just embracing it. You don't know what the future holds, but it's just having the faith that I think everything works out as it's planned, right? And that there's a bigger picture. And so I think that faith has really just kept me going. And then along the way, it's really seeing that there's other people that you can help, right? And really like guide and open up doors to, because felt very just, I had this life transformative experience because of the connections and taking that risk. And I wanted to help athletes navigate that just with more confidence and find themselves in better situations. And I think it doesn't, like what we've learned is it really isn't about continuing to play. It's just about finding a spot that you're passionate about next, you know, and something that you really want to wake up every morning, get in the office, get in, you know, and work and make an impact. And that's what's really exciting and really helps me just take the leap of, it's all about helping people find a place where they're going to thrive. And athletes are great hard workers. They are just resilient. They know how to be team players. They know how to like work hard and have goals. And so these are like the people that employers really want to hire, right? So it is just, it's really cool that it's come full circle to our roots and helping athletes really find teams where they're going to just be great fits in and make a huge impact at. So
yeah, it's such a good point because everyone starts as a beginner, right? But it takes courage to get on the field. It takes courage to step on the starting line, to really push yourself and see what you're capable of, not wanting to let your teammates down. So all of those skills, where I think it's interesting with Euro Sports is all of those transferable skills that you talked about: hard work, determination, resiliency of being able to pick yourself up after defeat, knowing and trusting your team, and how do you build and maintain that? Those are all a core to building a business or building a career that employers like us at Comcast really value. We talk a lot about, you know, the investment we make in hiring military because of that same work ethic. And you see so much of that embodied in our athletes as well. Can you talk a little bit about how you're helping to visualize an athlete's resume? If they put so much time on the field or in the game, they don't have the traditional things you would see on a resume, you know, on years of experience or this coding. Can you talk a little bit about how you is tackling that?
Yeah, we're kind of doing it two ways by helping translate what jobs are, what the companies are actually looking for. So we work really closely with companies to actually help them resonate to these athletes. So what is it? Why would you be a good fit at this company, right? What are the skills that you would need? And then we, on the other side, we actually work with the athlete, and it's taking their story and flipping it in a way that it's all about their experience, their leadership. And so it's, instead of going with a pretty blank resume to this job opportunity, they're actually pitching themselves, you know, that they're this really well-experienced person who's going to elevate your team right away. And so by them, actually, we're flipping that whole kind of recruitment model, then reimagining that so that it's the athletes that are pitching themselves. So it's really, we're hearing from the companies that they're loving it because they're seeing immediately what the type of person they are getting, and that they're seeing the competitive spirit of the talent, which every, employer wants to have that competitive talent, right? So it's great.
Absolutely.
And I might add to that too, 100% employers look for that. Like, so if this is what we tell students who are applying for the WIS fellowship, you know, we understand that you're spending 20 or more hours a week competing during the week and then competitions on the weekend, but your ability to multitask, your competitive fire, your discipline, you know how to come back from failure. You know, we talk a lot about that, not being afraid to fail. And and owning it, like to your
Yeah.
point, Ainsley, like make sure that people are aware of, and even if you didn't win a national championship, how did your team do? Were you the captain? Were you voted,
Yeah.
accolades by your teammates? And did you work part-time ever? You may not have had the exact internship experience had you not been playing a sport, but playing your sport, maybe doing something part-time, waiting tables or whatever it is that you did, that all shows work ethic, and that you're, going to do whatever it's going to take, to not just thrive, but really succeed.
Absolutely. That's so well said. And we all get it because we competed at that high level, and it is just, there's that immediate connection. So finding the athlete advocates within the companies who want to help other athletes really get up there has been a really just cool thing about the support and the people that we're working with. So like you guys. So
Well, finding that athlete advocate, I'm going to build off of that because, at Comcast, one of the reasons we came to WIST was that we really wanted to bring more diversity, a female perspective in our selections process when we were choosing companies. We're also seeing not as many female founders apply, and we knew that there was a way to correct that. And we just innately knew WIST was going to be a great partner in that. So that very tangible way we have done that is bringing in a fellow to be part of our deal flow team, helping to do those early first round interviews, to look over applications, really help us identify the best for our partners to start reviewing and interviewing. So talk about, maybe it's going back to that CES moment of IBM Sports. What do you think it was that you said that really opened up that vision of fellowships? And where have you seen from the initial few fellowships to, it's grown time over time. What are some of the things that you're seeing in the ways that the fellows you're supporting are getting actual apprenticeship and work experience to put on that resume?
Yes. Well, and that, again, we talk about when you do a startup, you have a business model, you launch with the first thing that you have a great deal of confidence is going to resonate. And my own internship at Turner Broadcasting in college led to my role there, my moving here. It was so pivotal in my life. And that resonated with everyone, because if you can help a young woman get that first bit of experience and get her in the door, it's been about the network, like the men and who have been in the leadership roles. You hire who you tend to hire who you played football with or was in your fraternity. That's all natural behavior that for leaders. So they knew right away that when they met me and heard about what we were going to do with fellows, they were like, wow, you're going to help us identify these rock star, badass students, whether undergrad, grad, or PhD, depending on whatever you need. But they really didn't have a way to diversify the stack of resume especially when they posted an engineer role. They just didn't have the way to expand that talent pipeline. And we knew early on, we built a database of all these college professors, all these college coaches. And we've grown. We've had 75 fellows to date, which is so wonderful. It just makes me proud. I just can't even stand it. I'm like the proud auntie over here. And I'm still, we're still in touch with all of them, and they're in touch with each other. So what starts to happen is we developed this year for the first time a WIST CIS program, so that the current fellows can work for, or not work for necessarily, but find an advisor, find a mentor, and a former fellow. And the best thing that happened this summer is what should be happening is we had a fellow work for another fellow inside Comcast, Jenna. It was unbelievable. So Ayana got to work with Michaela, and that is not magic. That is exactly how this should work. It's just super, super rewarding, because really that's what we want to do, is have everyone have a broader network, at the end of the day. And to help employers, so we not only change the ratio, and I know we're going to get to this, but how important the culture is once you do hire or bring this woman in. We just did a study. We did a survey of our fellows about how was the culture inside the organization where they worked, because we want to be able to track that the culture is improving, over time. But how do you hire? How are you managing? How are you, especially if there's a lonely only at the table? A lot of times the manager may be super uncomfortable with that and not not know or not have anyone to talk to about how to create a more inclusive culture where everyone feels like they belong. So it's two-step. It's the pipeline, but it's also the culture once, women are hired, women, veterans, disabled, anyone that's currently a minority in this industry, that's who we work for.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about that, because you spend a lot of time, Ainsley, working with companies that need to articulate their culture and are, brave enough to look at, are there gaps in the recruiting funnel? What are some of the things that you've learned in terms of bringing those culture aspects to life on your platform?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. There's so many companies right now that are really desiring hiring women and people of color, and like that, just belonging, like an inclusion and equity, right? And so what the athlete base is 66% women or people of color. Like, so it is like a natural fit. So we're so thankful to be partnered with WIST, and be working on this together, because that is what we're hearing from companies, is that there's this huge desire for that, but they don't have access to that talent pipeline. And so that's what companies like WIST and Ubro can do together, is give direct access to this amazing, driven, committed group of talent. And so what we're doing is really interviewing with the high execs about what they're wanting, right? And what makes someone stand out. And it's really interesting, because sometimes when we're talking to them, they don't even quite know, and then when they say it, they're like, and we repeat it back, they're like, wow, that's it, so it's really helping just them clarify what they're looking for and what makes a great hire. And then having the athlete advocates also be speaking and promoting and kind of telling about their experience at these companies. It's a really authentic way to promote the opportunity to work there and join their team. So it's been really powerful.
Yeah, that's true. You're sitting on it, even asking those probing questions does it creates that retrospection of what can we do better, and what do we really value, and that should, in their actions, that's really, at the end of the day, culture is a set of behaviors that people do over and over again and reinforce. So there is an interesting dynamic, and we talk about it a lot at Comcast as well, of are we getting the right talent in, and then are we really giving them the right visibility and projects and opportunities to move up in the organization. And Marilou, you said, there's that tendency, you hire people that remind you of themselves. You can inadvertently give the high profile projects to somebody who reminds you of yourself. And then when that opening comes up, you don't necessarily, because you haven't been given the projects, you don't necessarily have the experience. Within your career, how have you seen other ways to dismantle that dynamic?
The dynamic between what can happen in a biased situation, like we're in unconscious bias.
Of how do you address where, sometimes that diversity gets a little scarce higher up. So how do we address that middle piece? I want to spend a little time there. And then I also like early in the pipeline of like giving young girls a sight line into this.
Well, and this is one thing we coach the women who are already working in the industry, is the importance of sitting down with your employer and having the performance review, forcing that conversation where you're able to showcase the things you've accomplished, share your goals. And any good, strong employer wants to help you achieve your own goals, right? So I think that women, we have to advocate for ourselves. We have to work. I still also think we have to work harder. We have to show up in an even bolder way sometimes, which is a fine line, right? Because we know that women, we have to be ourselves, but as soon as you advocate for yourself, you can appear to be too bold or bossy or one of these things, that these attributes that get placed on women that are completely unfair and unfounded. But if you're working with good people and good leaders, and to this point, there are still mostly men leading this industry, there are so many good men, I can tell you, mostly good men who are really trying to learn and trying to be aware. The first step to change any behavior is to be aware of it, and also acknowledge the best leaders to me, in my own experience, have also recognized their own limitations, recognize their vulnerability. This is an area that, and I wish I had handled this situation differently, said something differently, and acknowledge that, that apology, that recognition that maybe that you didn't manage that situation in the right way, but it's okay to acknowledge that and your own vulnerability, to address it and to be better. But if you're not aware of it, you certainly can't change it. And it's a process. We say none of us have got this mastered. Everyone has a bias. I mean, I have my own biases, and to break them, you have to be aware of them, and also try to be thoughtful and kind, in every interaction that you have. I just want to say there's certain leaders in tech right now who are the master class in what not to do in terms of treating employees, literally how to absolutely disrespect, disregard, dehumanize people. That's the opposite of what we're trying to coach leaders to do. So
yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely.
It's a process.
It is a process, absolutely. So there's a Kristen Weber, it was talking about how this starts young, right? And that she herself has done seminars with teens where they were like, well, wait, there's a career here, and this, it ties together my interest in sports. And we are doing a great project with you and our community impact team on helping girls at that high school level see what are the options for entering into all different types of careers in sports. So I would love to give you some time just to talk through how did that come together, and how are we getting that out to the masses of these young girls that I think the stat is they start to drop out of sports and confidence in math around age 14.
Girls drop out of sports and STEM studies at twice the rate of boys by the time they're 14. And so this, Ainsley, you may not even, I'm excited to share this with you as well. We knew a couple of years ago that we wanted to encourage women at a younger age because they're going to feed into our fellowship program. So really it's about that, our own talent pipeline. And I loved science and math. No one ever encouraged me towards that. I now have a daughter who's a doctor. So clearly, I mean, who knows if someone had encouraged me, but what we want to do with our Discover Sports Tech series is show high school students, high school young women, career paths in sports and tech that they have no idea about. They don't know the role model. They don't know that science and math or art or design or all of those things are super cool. Keep playing your sport, because look at these amazing women. This content series is women on the younger, earlier into their career, because they're a little bit more attainable and accessible for a high school student. But being able to distribute it through the Comcast Live Zones is just absolutely a dream come true for us, because we know these women can be impacted and engaged and inspired to keep STEM and sports in their lives. So that's the whole idea. DJ Heat from the Washington Wizards and Washington Mystics, her advice is the best advice I've heard anyone ever give any woman in this industry, especially a young high school or even a college student. So hopefully we can put the link in the chat to that, because I think everybody here, if you're curious about the industry of sports tech, these are great introductory videos on AR, VR, what does strategy look like? What is footwear design, all these cool careers in the industry. Esports is a big one.
And very tangible advice, like how do I get a mentor?
Right.
How do I go about having the courage to ask somebody to be my mentor? One of the magical things that did happen in our program is that we always have a set of advisors that all of the companies get to work with in the program. They're assigned a commercial advisor, one of the decision makers within the sports consortium. So it could be NBC Sports, WWE, PGA Tour. It's really that pairing based off of testing and piloting the technology to see the relevance for our business. So that's the commercial advisor, but we also bring in external advisors that are really deep subject matter experts. Marilou, you recommended Patty to be the advisor for your sports. And Ainsley, I would love for you to talk about Hattie's path in providing advice, and then something else that happened.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. It was basically immediately. We just met her, and her why behind why she loved what we were doing was just so clear. And her experience was just so different than the rest of our teams. And just, it was amazing how she just elevated us immediately, you know, based off of just her passion and past experiences. And so within probably a week and a half working together, we both were like, okay, we have to make this like a full-time thing. So it's been wonderful having her just join our team and bring her network and expertise and just fun. She fits our culture perfectly, and really helps us even make it even better. So it's kudos to the Marilou for the recommendation, and you guys for setting it all up, because that has been very just transformative. And she is a past field hockey player, but I don't think that's really why we hit it off immediately, but maybe one piece of it. So yeah, having people just a big focus on me for me when we're building our team is just surrounding ourselves with people who make us immediately better, you know, and have different strengths, and not everyone's the same, but all have the same why. And so it is really, she fit that immediately. So it's been awesome.
Adding rock stars to your team is like the best validation that there is, right? When you have someone that you really respect, who has a ton of credibility in your domain, and they jump on board, you're like, this is validating and awesome. And that's one of our favorite things at WIST. And one of the joys for me of having worked in this industry now for so long is that I have grown to have an innate sense of what different roles are needed. And with SportsTech, Jenna, you know, part of our promise to you is that we will bring appropriate mentors and advisors to your startups, and we know them, and it's wonderful. I have mentored teams of all men, and it's fantastic. And we don't even talk about diversity. That's the best thing, is when you don't even discuss the diversity or anything. It's just innate. Like, it starts to become natural that you work with people, different genders, different, you know, races, different lived experiences. All of that should just become very natural. And that's what we're working towards.
Yeah. Well, speaking of amazing people and assembling an amazing team, Emma, for everyone in the chat, she has dropped in a link to those videos that we talked about earlier. So check out, because the advice in them, phenomenal. And then I would love, Marilou, you mentioned it earlier, like everybody has a superpower. So you want to assemble the team around you that has a different superpower from you. Can you talk a little bit more about how you went from Marilou to now a team of 5?
Yes. And first, though, quick step back to say shout out to Emma Henzes, because she has taught herself. This is a perfect example of a growth mindset. She literally taught herself how to do this level of editing of this content. We talked about everyone has Zoom fatigue, right? So we had done Zoom meetings with these women. We had the content. We talked to you, Jenna, and learned about the lift zones, and that it was so organic the way that it evolved to be this living on-demand content now. So huge shout out to Emma for that. Let's see. So what's interesting, because I was working full-time in the business, and we started WIST as a nonprofit, all volunteer. So we did hire eventually. Not long after we incorporated, I realized that we needed at least one paid part-time operations person. And that was Gretchen Reeves was extraordinary in helping build our infrastructure in our early days. A ninja army of amazing volunteers. Sydney Sarachek from the NBA joined us and helped inspire the WIST Presents series that you see today. So board members who made introductions, you know, to partners. Jenna, I wouldn't know you if not for Elise Saul, our board member, right, who knew there was something there when she read your press release about the SportsTech Accelerator Group. So it's been so organic and genuine. And that's also when you know the universe is kind of lining up to bring you awesome people. And I think in 2020, we were well positioned, you know, when George Floyd was murdered and so much was happening in terms of social justice, that employers recognized they weren't doing enough around DE&I, first of all, but also that diversity leads to better business results. So we've really had the benefit of that research as well as the social justice side of this. So, as you see, as you're growing Uru, Ainsley, like, and you, Jenna, like when people are jumping on the train that you put on the tracks, it is the most rewarding thing I think that there could be, because it doesn't happen alone. It just, you need someone to kind of be the glue and kind of keep the wheels on the train, but then off you go.
Absolutely. Yeah, it comes down, it's a support system, right? And a real balance in that support system. Let's talk about that then, advice for your own personal support system and how others can build that tactical ways that you've done that.
Ainsley, you want to go?
Sure. I mean, it's kind of what you've said a little bit, Marilou, is it's come about very authentically and naturally, is how I found like the biggest supporters. And we now have, I mean, we had a board member who, or an investor introduced us to a fellow board member of his, who now, like, it's just kind of all happened through connections. And I don't think you ever know who is gonna create that introduction, and you have something to learn from everyone. And so I think that going in with that mindset has really helped us kind of just, we clearly articulate who we're looking for and what skill sets we need, and then ask now our kind of vast advisor network. But it has taken a while to get there, but it's just through getting out and sharing what we're doing, what our mission is. And then if they know anyone else who would love to hear and might be able to help us out. And so, yeah, it definitely has grown pretty organically.
Yeah. And I would add tactically, the advice that I give to founders or women looking to enter the industry is get your why statement down pat, so that if you do have the opportunity to meet someone quickly, or email someone briefly, because you don't want to send a too long to read email to anyone. So getting your mission, your personal mission, the mission of your business down to where if you have a chance encounter with someone, you can hopefully quickly resonate with them. And I can tell immediately when I meet someone if they are digging on our mission, or if they kind of glaze over and they're like, either they're not having a great day, or it's just not going to resonate with them. And you have to get this almost spidey sense to where, to your point, Ainsley, you don't ever close a door, but you also learn to move on quickly. Like you just can't, there's so many people that do want to help and do want to be part of your mission, that you just have to move pretty quickly and be as professional and polished as you can be.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of people who will say things, and then it's actually the action that really just like, so I think that it's, that making sure that when you're vetting, like, people will do work and make introductions and just like if they're really caring about your mission, and then you can bring them on. Because I think if you're too quickly and desperate, then it's might not be the right person, so.
Yeah.
And we were lucky that we had worked with so many women as volunteers, that we already had a good sense of the skill sets we needed. And we look for potential, like, more than anything else. But to your point, Ainsley, I wanted to say it is also important to not be dashed or destroyed when someone that you did trust didn't do what they said they were going to do. You just have to recognize, don't take it personally. And I've had that with investors. We've talked about where an investor says, oh yes, I'm in. And then they completely ghost you. And it's like, you just can't take that personally, and you just have to move on. So the resilience comes in, being an athlete, and it's in most cases not even you or anything you did. It's just that it didn't resonate on that day, or they changed their mind. But there's plenty of other fish in the sea. I mean, at the end of the day.
Yeah. How have you both avoided drifting from your mission? Have you had examples where something sounds exciting, or it could be a big pivot moment? How have you really determined, is that really truly aligned to the mission? Because prioritizing is critical to success.
Well, it is, and not being afraid to pivot your business model we talked about this a lot, I talk about this with founders or any CEO is, any decision that I make, is this mission driven? Because there are many other ways we could fundraise, many other ways that we could be considering accomplishing this goal. But at the end of the day, we have two stakeholders. We have women, people of color, any minority who's not in this business are our first priority. But then the employers who fund us and who have the share our mission, right? It becomes super clear. Like you really have to solve a problem, a real problem for both of those stakeholder groups. And Ainsley, you're doing that. I mean, it's really not dissimilar the way that we're approaching our businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I feel like I had the time I kind of encountered it, like when the pandemic shut down the world of sports, like our mainstream of revenue was actually through professional sports teams recruiting athletes internationally. And so that like went from us having a team around us, or me, to me being back the lonely only, as you will. And so I was kind of trying to figure out what's next and how I could still help serve the athletes, because I know that in this time, athletes were more than ever struggling with transition, like what to do. They were losing seasons. People weren't getting their professional like contracts. There was so much, but I wasn't quite sure how to help them. Right. And so I think at that time, it was really just leaning into talking to as many athletes as possible and hearing what they needed. But then we learned that there's this even bigger opportunity of helping them after playing transitions into careers. And so it actually was the biggest lesson, is just trusting your gut, staying grounded to your why of helping, and then like really, just honing in on helping them find opportunities that they're going to thrive in. And that the fact that companies are willing to pay, to have this awesome talent base, it's just, then when you have the passion and you have like the clear vision, it's amazing how fast things can go. So.
I love it. That is probably the perfect note to end on, because I think it kind of circles back to where we started, which is finding that problem that you are absolutely passionate about. That's your why, that's your mission. And I think that was beautifully put, that if your why is how you want to help athletes, and just being very clear, it's athletes, that is your number one community that you're serving, women and minorities for WIST, of helping them at every stage of their career, just being really clear that that's who you're serving first and foremost, I think helps avoid that mission drift as you do have to kind of pivot and find, where do you fit in the market, that you can build a sustainable business, because otherwise the helping doesn't continue.
Right.
And Jenna, you've done I'm inspired also by the way you're evolving the SportsTech program, right? To address feedback from your founders, make the program longer, all the things that we've talked about. How can we better support what you're doing? The learning never stops. I mean, that's literally my motto. The learning never, ever stops. And the minute you think you've got something solved and you close your mind, that's not going to be productive ever.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we had to ask ourselves, even in forming SportsTech, ultimately, who were we serving? And it is truly the founders. Right. If we are finding founders like you that are building technology that can really make a business impact, then our partners are going to want to work with those founders. We're going to realize cost savings, efficiencies, new revenue. That's going to keep them coming back, and that keeps the flywheel going. And so it has been very fulfilling to see, now that we're coming into cohort 3, that the number one referral channel for us are alumni.
That's awesome.
And again, it's I think that helps to see it to be it. They need to see, Kelly Prock and what she has accomplished founding in Venue, and the great success that she has now working with Apple, and like just redefining sort of micro betting and in all of these exciting places. I think those stories have helped women out there who are founders and just need that little bit of, I can see the path forward, to give them the confidence to apply. And we always say, hey, that's the first step, right? Get on the field, get in the game. Just, put yourself out there.
And if you don't, the answer is going to be no every time.
That's true.
Mhm.
100%.
You have absolutely nothing to lose.
Yeah,
Right?
that's true.
Absolutely. Well, thank you both so much. It's always really meaningful how I have gotten to work with you, to get to know you and to know that we're making an impact. So thank you for being amazing partners and, part of our portfolio, Ainsley. So thank you for sharing your wisdom today.
Well, thank you.
Thank
And shout out to you for being in Adweek's Most Powerful Women, right beside
Yeah.
Venus Williams. Let's go, sister. That's super exciting.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's
it
very,
made
very
our little daughter proud. So anything,
Very
as a mom, anything that makes the little ones proud.
a wonderful, wonderful honor and recognition of the work that you do in this industry, Jenna. So thank you.
Really. Yeah,
Thanks for
thank
having us.
you.
Thank you.
Uh,
All right.
you.
Bye.